Okay, this is a lesson on Algebra 2, day 25, completing the square. Students will complete the square when a is equal to 1. Okay. So far, whenever you're supposed to factor quadratics, okay, there's a few ways that I taught you. The first way I taught you was the GCF method, finding a greatest common factor. I also taught you the Xbox method. Okay, these are the first two ways that I taught you. And then yesterday I taught you how to take a square root. Actually, 2 days I taught you that. Square root. Okay, those are the three ways. So whenever we're looking at factoring a quadratic, try to find the GCF first, then try to Xbox it. If that doesn't work, try square root. If this doesn't even work, then you are going to learn a new one today. It's called completing the square. This is the next way. Complete the square. You may or may have not learned this in Algebra 1, but this is the way we're going to learn today. And complete the square is the one we're learning today that you need to know, and it leads naturally into the quadratic formula. Raise your hand if you remember the quadratic formula. Good. That's Algebra 1 stuff. So these are all the steps, okay? When in doubt, use the quadratic formula, but you still need to know how to complete the square, okay? The nice thing about the complete the square thing is it uses this skill. Watch up here right now. What do you notice about this trinomial? Actually, plus 4x plus 4. What do you notice about this trinomial? It's an order. How else? It's a perfect square. If I were to factor it, would you agree that it could be x plus 2 squared? Do you all agree with me? Good. This is a perfect square trinomial, right? Perfect square trinomial. So we like perfect square trinomials because we could factor them. And then what do we do to get rid of this square right here usually? What did I just teach you how to do? Square root it, right? A square root is the opposite of square. So we're going to focus on those skills today. So these are the steps. If you're on the video, you could just pause it, copy them down. Okay, number 1. Watch me do number 1. No pencils right now. I'll give you a chance to write. I just would like you to focus, okay? So number 1, complete the square. On this example, you could do this without completing the square. I know that if you were to do this, you could factor this using Xbox or just factoring, your factoring skills. Would you all agree that these are my factors? Yeah. Yes or no? Yes. And would you agree that my two answers are equal to these two answers, negative 6 and 4? Yes. Y'all agree? Okay, good. So keep those two answers in the back of your head. I used this example because I wanted to show you the steps with an easy example. Okay? But this is how we do it. Step 1, move all the constant terms to the opposite side of the variable. So we have x squared and we have x, okay? Those are variable terms. Negative 24 is a constant term. We want to move negative 24 to the opposite side. So I do the opposite of minus 24. I add 24 to both sides. So we got x squared plus 2x is equal to 24. Okay? That's step 1. Step 2, find and add c to both sides. C is equal to b over 2 squared. So you start with this. C is equal to b over 2 squared. Okay, pencils down right now. Just watch right now. B in this example is equal to what, class? 2. So 2 over 2 squared is 1. 1 squared is 1. Okay, so our C is 1. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. Okay, I added 1 on the left side right here. And I added 1 to the right side right here. Okay? What do we notice about the left side now? What do we notice about it? It's a perfect square trinomial. So step 3, I'm going to factor the left side as a perfect square. You see this left side is going to be x plus 1 squared. The right side of the equation, what's 24 plus 1? 25. Now that I have a square here, I'm going to square root both sides. I want to get rid of this squared here. So I'm going to square root both sides of this equation. So we got square root and the square cancel out, leaving just x plus 1. Okay? And the square root of 25 is both positive 5 and it's also equal to negative 5. So I'm going to write a second equation. And I have two equations. Okay? So now I'm going to subtract 1 on both sides. X is equal to 4. This is one of the answers. The second example, subtract 1 on both sides. X is equal to negative 6. Okay? Are these the same answers we came up with earlier? Yes or no? Yeah, it is. They are the same answers. Now, why do we do all this work? Well, in this example, we wouldn't do all this work on it. You would just factor it, use Xbox, okay? I used this first example, easy problem, to show you the steps, okay? Now I'm going to show you on the next example why we use it. Okay, on this example, if you were to factor the left side, if you were going to try Xbox, you wouldn't be able to do it, okay? You would say not factorable. When this turns out, since we can't use Xbox, what you're going to end up doing is completing the square. Okay, so the first thing you do is you move all the constants to the right. We have a constants of negative 3. I got 3 to both sides. So we got m squared minus 4m is equal to positive 3. I left a little space right here because I need to complete the square right there. Okay. Next step, I'm going to find c. c is equal to b over 2 squared. Our b in this example is negative 4, so it's going to be negative 4 over 2 squared, which is going to be equal to, negative 4 over 2 is negative 2, negative 2 times 2, or negative 2 squared is going to be positive 4. So I'm going to add positive 4 to both sides. Okay. This left side now becomes a perfect square, so I could factor it as a perfect square trinomial, so it's going to be m minus 2 squared, which is equal to 7. Okay, take the square root of both sides. Step 4, square root both sides. So square root cancels out with square right here. So we have m minus 2 is equal to, the first answer is positive rad 7. M minus 2 is also equal to the negative rad 7. Okay, add 2 to both sides on the first equation. We have m is equal to 2 plus rad 7. And on the second equation, we add 2 to both sides. So m is equal to 2 minus rad 7. These are your two answers. Now, you've never seen answers like this, 2 plus rad 7, but 2 minus rad 7, but these are the specific answers. These are the roots. Okay? So, could we do an Xbox with this? No, but this is specifically how we would factor it. These are the answers. Okay, pencils down right now. Everyone's watching right now, right? Okay, questions? Yes?
Where'd you get
3 plus 4. I added 3 to both sides up here, so that's where the 3 came from. Do you agree?
Yeah.
And then c, remember, is b over 2 squared, so our b is negative 4 over 2. Negative 4 divided by 2 is? 2. 2 squared is? 4, right? So I have to add 4 here, and I have to add 4 here, because I want to keep the equation balanced.
Okay.
Does that make sense? And then this is a perfect square. 3 plus 4 is 7. Square root of both sides. You get two equations solved. These are your two answers. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. Let's have the 1s tell the 2s about number 2. 2s tell the 1s about number 1. Go. Okay, number 3. Here you go. Go. Okay, so in this example, any problem that they give you, students up here, any problem that they give you, you need to be able to know what steps to go. Remember I said try the GCF, Xbox, take a square root. If these don't work, then you go to complete the square. Okay, so here we go. First thing you do, subtract 6 on both sides. So it's n squared minus 10n is equal to negative 6. Then we find c. c is going to be equal to negative b. We know, or I'm sorry, c is going to be equal to b, which is negative 10 over 2 squared. Negative 10 over 2 is negative 5 squared is 25. We're adding 25 to both sides. Okay? So we add 25 here, and we add 25 here. Alright? We know that this left side now is a perfect square trinomial, so we could go n minus 5 squared is equal to negative 6 plus 25 is 19. And now you can take the square root of both sides. So you got n minus 5 is equal to, and remember, how many answers do we have when we have a square root? 2. Here's a little trick that I've seen some of you already do. You might have already seen it. You could just put plus or minus square root of 19. Okay? And then we could add 5 to both sides of this equation. This is just another way to correct it. You could put plus and minus rad 19. 5's cancel out. N is equal to 5 plus or minus, there's two answers, rad 19. Okay? Those are the two answers, okay? So you could write it any way you write. You could use the two answer method that I've shown you. You could even use the set notation that I've shown you. Remember how you put your answers there? Or you could do this. These are three ways you could do it. Okay, I'm just showing you the different ways, okay? Okay, number 4, by yourselves. Ready? Set. Oh. Before we start number 4, turn to your neighbor, tell him, what do you notice that's very interesting about this problem? Okay, so someone raise your hand. What do you think we could do before we start? Add 4? No. What's the first step whenever we find the what? Find the GCF. Are there any GCFs in here? 4. There's a 4 all the way across. So watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide the whole thing by 4. I wanted to show you this trick. So 4n squared divided by 4 is just n squared. 8n is just positive 2n. Minus 2 is equal to negative 1. Okay? So I just showed you this first step to show you the trick of this. Okay? Go. Complete the square. Okay, on this example, to complete the square, you move all the constants to the right. Okay? Move all constants. Step 1. So this is a constant. Oh, I erased it. This is a constant, and this is a constant. Okay, these are your two constants, so you want to put them across you want to move them, all of them to the right side of the equation, so this negative 2 needs to move across the opposite side. So we're going to add 2 to both sides. When I add 2 to both sides, we got n squared plus 2n is equal to positive 1. And then I'm going to find c. Remember, c is going to be equal to b, in this case, is 2 over 2 squared, which is just going to be equal to 1. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. When I add 1 to both sides, this becomes a perfect square trinomial. This is n plus 1 squared, which is equal to 2. Square root both sides. Squares come out, so we have n plus 1 is equal to plus or minus rad 2. Subtract 1 on both sides. N is equal to negative 1 plus or minus rad 2. There's your answer. Okay? Continuing on, number 5. One last one. Number 5 is going to make you flip out, so I'm going to kind of walk you through it a little bit. Okay? Number 5. First step. What's the first step that you think we should do? Raise your hand. Yep. We're going to subtract what on both sides? Subtract 4 on both sides, okay? So that's the first step. So everyone just follow along with me for now. Okay. Second step, what's our C going to be? What's our C going to be? Let's all calculate our C, and I'll ask you for it in about 20 seconds. Go. Okay, finishing it up. You'll notice that on all of your perfect squares, whenever you go from this step to the next step, you're going to do A, and then if this is a negative, you're going to put a negative here. Oh. And then this value here is always B, which is 5 over 2. The value right here is B over 2. Okay? It's always B over 2. Look at all your problems. B over 2. Is that true? Is that true? Everyone else, is that true? I hope it's true to you. Okay? So whenever you want to figure out your perfect square, it's just b over 2 for that second term. So, and then what's 1 plus 25 over 4? Let's make it a fraction. What would the answer be?
7 1/4.
No, improper fraction. 29 over 4. Just leave it improper. Okay? What's 1 plus 25 over 4? 1 is like 4 over 4, right? Okay. I'm going to finish off this problem for the sake of time. Here we go. Sure, side problem. 1 plus 25 over 4. 1 is just like saying 4 over 4 plus 25 over 4. Add the fractions, numerator with numerator is 29. Keep the denominator 4. Make sense? So you have to be really good at fractions now. Okay, here we go. Next step, take the square root of both sides. Shh. So the first one, they cancel out. So we got a minus 5/2 is equal to the square root of 29, or plus or minus the square root of 29 over the square root of 4. Now I got a question for you. What's the square root of 4 really equal to? 2. So let's just not even put square root of 4. Let's put 2 here. Okay? Now we finished up the problem. Please pay attention. This is the hardest problem. Okay? We got plus 5/2 on both sides. 5/2 cancel out. So a is equal to 5/2 plus or minus square root of 29 over 2. Now I got a question for you. Are my denominators the same here?
Yes.
Yeah, so let's make them all under one or all over one denominator. So your answer is going to be a is equal to 5 plus or minus rad 29 over 2. This is your final answer. This is a legitimate Algebra 2 problem that you should be able to do. Doesn't this look like the quadratic formula to you? One of the answers you could get? X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. That could be calculated here over 2a. You will, but you still need to know how to do this. You could use a quadratic formula. By the way, this whole process, complete the square, this is how they figured out the quadratic formula. Okay? So, yes, please. But this concludes the lesson.